quarterback for the New England Patriots, making improvements. That, according to a player I texted with last night to try to get an idea of how the rookie's been looking. Weather was pretty bad and rainy in New England, but he was doing a really good job out there at practice. But the one thing that stands out about Mac Jones, and we talked about this during the draft, is his ability to process. And he's doing a good job already with that offense yesterday, even airing the ball out a little bit. We haven't seen that over the last 10 OTAs he's been part of. In the meantime, I know we've been spending so much time talking about Aaron Rodgers, but Deshaun Watson obviously is still a really big story. We know that a lot of decisions still need to be made, but yesterday, GM Nick Caserio went on a local Houston sports radio talk show, and he gave a little bit more than he normally does, Greeny. He says, we're going to look and hopefully make a decision on what we're going to do by training camp. So now we got a little bit of a timeline in terms of what the Houston Texans front office is thinking and whether or not they want to deal Deshaun, keep him, and obviously try to figure out a way to make that all work. But I do know this, that I can report that they are still open to trading him.
All right, yeah, again, to your point of a moment ago, there are so many factors well beyond football that will go into what winds up happening there, but we'll see. And training camp is about a month away. In the meantime, let's talk about another quarterback here, and that is Baker Mayfield. Expectations are awfully high for him and his team this coming year after Mayfield had a terrific season in his third year, finishing in the top 10 in QBR, quarterback in the Browns to their first playoff win in 26 years. He was the number 1 overall pick in 2018. He's eligible for an extension. He will enter the season with continuity around him. Could mean for even better things in 2021. Of course, we'll have to see. He's also expected to have a healthy Odell Beckham Jr., who will return after suffering a torn ACL in October. And so as I sit here, and Domonique Foxworth, you and I were chatting just briefly before the show, you look at a guy like Baker Mayfield, and while everything is set up, of all the really good young quarterbacks in the AFC, he may have a better team around him than any other. I wonder what you think of the pressure there is on him, considering that and his contract and everything else, to play big this year.
The pressure is high, and it's kind of been unfair what we've been doing to Baker Mayfield because his rookie year, he's a number 1 overall pick. Pressure's high. Following year, they stack the roster. Pressure's high. Next year, it's like, is he going to get the 5th-year option picked up again? Pressure's high. Again, this year, people are talking about them as a legitimate contender for the Chiefs, and the pressure is high. I'm not sure any quarterback has started their career with as much pressure as Baker Mayfield has every year. And again, I don't know that it feels like it's unfair to do as a person, but I'm not sure it's unfair analysis. Like, we understand that this team has no real major holes. They filled the secondary issue with some players that they picked up off of the Rams. The only thing that could take them to the next level right now, I think, is a less run-based, play-action-based offense and more Baker Mayfield in the pocket picking people apart. And if Baker's going to do that, then they are just as good as the Chiefs. But I'm not sure that Baker has that capacity in him.
Well, but that's a good example of why there is that pressure, D. Wood. I mean, we're sitting here basically saying if Baker Mayfield takes another step forward, the Cleveland Browns could be in the Super Bowl. That is a statement that in and of itself, D. Wood, brings some pressure with it.
Well, absolutely. We saw what Baker Mayfield did in last year in the postseason. And for me, it's about moments for Baker Mayfield because I think the Cleveland Browns' best chance of getting to where they were and surpassing that is continuing to stay within what they want to do. They are a run-first base offense. They have an elite offensive line. They have 2 elite backs. Obviously, we know about Jarvis Landry and Odell Beckham Jr. Everything comes off their running game. And for me, for Baker Mayfield to take that next step is capitalizing on moments, particularly in the postseason. That's when stars are made. That's when stars rise to the occasion. If Baker Mayfield can capitalize on moments late in the season, then to me, that's fulfilling his promise as the number 1 pick in the draft.
Diana, what do you think?
Yeah, boy, stop with all the pressure talk here, okay? So Dom went through every single season and why he was dealing with all the pressure. And there's a lot of truth to that. He was. But now he's surrounded by all these great weapons. It's his second year in Kevin Stefanski's offense. If anything, Baker Mayfield deserves a little credit to be able to just sit back here and go out and just play. We need to take the pressure off. I went back and looked at some of my notes, Greeny, from some of the games I covered with the Cleveland Browns against other teams that I was paying a little closer attention to. And all my notes are rave reviews from defensive coordinators about what Baker Mayfield was doing last year. He was decisive. He was accurate. He's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in those tight windows of passing. So he's done a really good job. I think it's time now we stop trying to dissect, is Baker Mayfield a good quarterback? And just give the sentence, Baker Mayfield can play the quarterback position well.
Yeah, he's
That's
a franchise
probably
quarterback
fair.
for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, he's not elite, but he's a franchise quarterback, which is what you want when you're drafting a quarterback in the first round. They could win the Super Bowl with this roster,
top 10,
with Baker
Dom.
Mayfield playing the way he played last
Put
year.
him in top 10.
In the meantime, Billie Jean King once wrote a book called Pressure is a Privilege. Sometimes it's not necessarily a bad thing. Meanwhile, as we continue,